Hi guys, I'm Phil Town from Rule 1 Investing, and today I'm going to tell you why your parents' investing advice might be kind of wrong. Okay, your parents mean well. I know, I'm one. But if you're a millennial, the world has changed a lot since your parents were your age. That's a fact of life. The advice that they give you about finances and investing is often based on what worked well for them when they were young. And in today's world, that advice might no longer be all that useful. You have to take a look at the advice you've heard from a fresh perspective, I think, and consider what's changed in the last 20 or 30 years. And given those changes, does that advice still fit? These are things that the baby boomer parents typically tell their millennial children, and the reasons why that advice may no longer work so well. The first piece of advice that isn't always true anymore, especially when you're young, is, quote, you need to buy a house. I really get it why parents suggest that, right? It makes sense when they were just starting out to go get a house. When they were young, houses were much more affordable than they are today. Much cheaper based on the cost of living than they are today. And since then, median home prices have risen literally astronomically. And on top of that, the days of 10% down payments have kind of gone away. Many millennials cannot afford to buy a home at all today. And even if you can, you could end up in one of those sort of house poor problems where you got all your money in a piece of real estate. You may have to put so much of your money into that home, you won't be able to do other things you want to do. And you may not be able to save for your future. You may not be able to start that business. You may not be able to do a life. So buying a house may have been a great investment for your parents, but there are better ways for you to invest your money right now. So let me give you some examples from my own life about how much that particular piece of advice has changed. When my father got back from World War II, right before I was born, the first thing they did was buy a house. Of course, my dad had a job, starting job, young guy, working as an accountant, not even a real accountant, kind of a bookkeeper. He was making $5,000 a year. He went out and bought a house in a really good part of Portland, Oregon, really nice place, really good schools, really low crime, nice house, 2-bedroom, bath, living room, little dining area, small home, but he paid $5,000 for it. In other words, my dad, as a starting bookkeeper salary, was able to buy a totally adequate home in a good part of Portland, Oregon in 1947. All right, for the exact same amount of money he was making in 1 year. All right, today, that same exact house is still there, and that house would sell for about $300,000 in Portland today. Same exact house, now it's however many years old, right? Would sell for $300,000 today. A starting bookkeeper in Portland might make $30,000, $35,000 a year. So look at the difference. My dad paid one time 1 year earnings, and now it's like 10 times. So that is making housing go right out of reach for most people. So your parents may assume that it's normal for people to buy their first house when they're at your stage of life, and you might believe the same thing. But you have to look through the conventional wisdom a little bit to see what's true right now. The key to financial success is to base your decision on facts and numbers, not on some unexamined belief that real estate's going to go up over the next 40 years like it did over the last 40. So the second piece of classic advice that parents share with their children is college is always worth it. No matter what you pay, it's worth it. And for your parents' generation, that actually turned out to be pretty true in general. But just like with the housing costs, tuition has ridden off the chart since I was a kid trying to go to school. I could go to school back in those days and work part-time and get it done. I worked at a student union at night. I worked bussing dishes at a sorority, and I could pay for college. Now, cost of college can be so high that the careers they prepare you for won't pay enough for you to be able to buy back the loans that you made for your investment. Now, you may have heard that when you were growing up, it was okay to take out student loans because college debt was good debt, right? It's worth it. You're going to go out and get a job and pay it off. The assumption was that you would make enough as a college graduate, you'd be far ahead even with the debt. Man, that assumption is absolutely not true for everybody anymore. Student loan debt is a very heavy burden for many people coming out of college, even when they're going to grad school and coming out with a professional degree. A dentist was recently surveyed in the Wall Street Journal who graduated from USD as an undergrad, borrowed money, or actually got that paid for by his parents, and then borrowed money to go to grad school for dentistry for 5 years at USC. And when he came out, he owed so much money that today, even in full-time dental practice, he will never be able to pay off that loan. Isn't that crazy? How crazy prices have gotten to go to school. So if you recently graduated from college and you're considering grad school, don't just assume it's going to pay off. It might not. You need to sit down and you need to take a really hard look at the real numbers. One of my daughters went to grad school over at Oxford. Holy smokes, she came out with a master's degree in comparative religion. If she had borrowed the money to go there for $100,000 for a year, if she had borrowed that, are you kidding me? I mean, I don't know how she's going to get a job in comparing religions that would pay off a $100,000 loan. So figure out how much will it cost, how much will you have to take out in loans, what will the loan payments be? And believe me, they are not cheap, and as you already know, no doubt. And this one is really important. How much more can you expect to make with that graduate degree than without it? And see if this investment in your education makes sense. If you're pretty sure that the increased income will be greater than your increased debt and the debt financing to pay off, you'll be able to handle the payments. All right, cool. Well, then go for it. Otherwise, this is not a good move from a financial point of view. You got to look for other ways to progress in your career that won't be as expensive as getting a graduate degree. I'll tell you, way back in the early days when I first started looking at investing, I ran into a guy that for some reason or other, we were talking about grad schools. I guess a friend of mine from the river had gone to Harvard Business School. I was really curious from this guy who went to Harvard, whether that was a good investment for my buddy. And he said, well, you can come out of school with a degree, an undergrad degree, and go to work for a company like Procter & Gamble. They'll put you into their management program, and 5 years later, you will be just as competitive in the market as somebody that went to Harvard Business School for 2 years and then worked for 3. So, that was 40 years ago. So, take it for what it's worth. I guess just be very careful that you're not paying more money, you're not investing in something you won't get a good return. The third piece of advice that will not set you up for success is, quote, to retire well, just budget and save money. All right. Now I say it won't. It can if you're really, really hardcore about it. Your parents' generation didn't have the kind of student loan burden you guys have. They didn't have the high cost of housing that you guys have. And they had a lot more money to save for retirement. And that's just the truth of it. Now you're likely to make less than your parents did, have massively higher housing costs, and massively more debt for school. So even though the idea of being frugal and putting money in the bank is great, it's probably not going to be enough, particularly putting your money in the bank at 1%. If you're like many millennials right now, you could skip the coffee shop every morning for the rest of your life and you won't touch your student loan debts, much less be able to buy a house. So many people, even if they're fantastic at sticking to budgets, they're never going to be able to pay off their debts in their lifetimes unless they find a new strategy. Wonder where we'll get with that, all right? That new strategy is to learn how to be a good investor. So it's not all lost, even if you got yourself in that situation now. You got too big of a house payment, you got too much loan payments to pay on education, or you want to buy a house and you can't. So becoming a good investor is the best way for you to pay down your debt, save for retirement, be able to buy a home in today's financial climate. Being a good investor, what that means really is just being able to seek out a few great companies to invest in when the stock is selling at a bargain. Just a few, maybe 20 in your lifetime. The best time to start investing, to learn to do that, you guys, is right now. If you're in your 20s or 30s, guess what? You can enjoy an enormous advantage of compounding returns that can increase your money exponentially over the long term. It doesn't take that long, and it doesn't take that much to put into it. So even though some of the advice you've heard and may have believed your whole life really doesn't work that well anymore, there is still a clear path forward. Becoming a smart investor while you're still young, this is absolutely the best way to grow your wealth, pay off your debts, ensure a financially secure retirement. Just retire early and go live the life you want to live. Now, I'd love to hear from you guys. What is the best financial advice you've ever received in your opinion? Now, leave a comment below with your answer, and I'll be sure to read it and follow up with you guys. So thanks for watching. Now go play. If you enjoyed this video and you feel it was valuable in sharing investing advice over the generations, hit the like button and please share this video with your friends. And if you want more investing content, subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the button on the screen for a free gift. So thanks again for watching.